Hey tennis fans, I'm Grace Carter and this is Tennis Now presented by Tennis Express. Tennis Express, order today and it ships today. A political power play prompted some public sniping between Novak Djokovic, Rafa Nadal, and Roger Federer. ATP President Chris Kermode was voted out by the ATP board during Indian Wells opening week. That means the 54-year-old Brit's 6-year tenure as ATP chief ends at the end of this year. The decision to dump Kermode spiked conflict between Player Council President Novak and his rivals Rafa and Roger. Citing confidentiality, Nole did not disclose his own vote on Kermode's future, though it's widely reported that he led the charge to oust the ATP chief. The board is comprised of 3 tournament representatives and 3 player representatives, with the president casting the deciding vote to break any deadlock. Djokovic has long advocated that players receive a bigger piece of the revenue pie. Novak says the structure creates a clear conflict of interest, giving the president too much power. When you have 3 votes of the player board and 3 votes of the tournament board, the president is a tiebreaker in a lot of those voting circumstances, says Nole, and in most of the cases there's a conflict of interest. It's just something we need to address. Now, Rafa, along with Stan Wawrinka and others, is a very vocal supporter of Chris Kermode and was upset that he wasn't consulted before the ouster. I'm disappointed that nobody came and explained why. What's the real reason we don't have Chris continuing running our sport? That's according to Rafa. Rafa told the Indian Wells media that he's pleased with his representation. But when he learned about Rafa's displeasure, Nole shot back, saying communication is a two-way street. Nole says if Rafa or Roger, or anyone else for that matter, really want to talk issues, they could have just picked up the phone and called him. Roger says he did try to meet with Novak before the vote was cast and was rebuffed. Fed says, I tried to meet Novak on the deadline, but unfortunately he has no time. That's hard to understand for me. He said there was a lot going on right now that we could meet in the next day, but then everything had already happened and been decided. Roger and Rafa met over coffee in Indian Wells to talk about the issue, with Fed concluding that they are on the same page. So why was the chief ousted? Money and power are the primary causes. A lot of players say the big issue is that Grand Slams produce hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue and players only get about 10% of that in prize money. They contrast tennis's lopsided revenue sharing to other major sports leagues, including the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, and the MLB, where athletes all earn nearly 50% of total revenues, as a clear sign that they are shortchanged. Some also suggest that Kermode's loyalties lean more toward the tournaments than the players. Now, Djokovic, who's earned a record $128 million in his career, points out that the issue is not about him or fellow elite players. He says it's about getting fair play and representation for all players. Federer said he still wants to know what the motive was behind the ouster. He points out that players have disparate agendas, but believes the tour is strong. So a lot of twists and turns in this story. We'll keep you updated. I'm Grace Carter. See you next time here on Tennis Now.